Hi everyone! Because it's Christmas, I decided to pick up a religious subject, and I'll be talking about the Finnish Evangelical Lutheran Church. And first of all, the basics. The Evangelical Lutheran Church is the majority church over here. Most people are members in it out of tradition, even though Finns are very secular people. And the Evangelical Lutheran Church is basically the archetype of a Protestantic church. They don't really have a dogma, they don't have a value. They are a church that basically floats on the waves of public opinion. Whatever is trendy becomes their dogma. And of course, now they are multiculturalist because that's the trendy topic. They are for gay marriage, that's the trendy topic. So they just shift their opinions however the public opinion changes. And with this multiculturalism, they have become completely cancerous and even criminal, because now the church is protecting those asylum seekers who got rejected, whose application didn't go through. And of course, there must be a good reason for why their applications didn't go through. They are most likely just these asylum seekers who come over here because the Finnish system gives the best welfare, and it was found out that they don't have any real need for the asylum, so they got turned down and they have 30 days to leave the country. But church is offering protection for these paperless illegal immigrants who decide to stay over here even though they got rejected. And they have formed these shelters for these paperless migrants. And it's funny that the church didn't think of any kind of shelters for Finnish homeless people. Like, there are tens of thousands of them. But only when these brown people got in, and they are here illegally, and there's a good reason for why they didn't get an asylum, those get the shelters. And I could show you a few examples of this Finnish church. And the leader of the Evangelical Lutheran Church is the Archbishop Kari Mäkinen. And he's a completely cancerous guy. Like, he's such a coat turner. Like, whenever the public opinion changes, his opinion changes. Like, first he was against gay marriage, and then when the gay marriage vote went through in parliament, he suddenly shifted and said it's a glorious day, that it's wonderful thing that gays can now get married. So that's the kind of guy he is. He has no moral backbone and no real values. So he says that the church must help these paperless migrants. And he says that in the world, the resources for living aren't divided equally. And we over here have more than what's ours fairly. So he obviously believes in this welfare that emanates from the earth. That he believes that we just happen to have all the nice things over here. And for example, in Iraq and Somalia, the earth just emanates violence and poverty and all these nasty things, and it's none of their own fault. Like, it's not the fault of the people living in there. It's just the way the countries are. They just happen to be shitty, and our country just happens to be nice, so we have to give them what's ours. Like, this is the racism of lowered expectations that these people always have, that they, even though they pretend to be anti-racist, deep down they believe that brown people are inferior. And that's why they believe that we must make sure they have everything they need because they can take care of themselves. And there was some talk about the legality of the church's actions in the newspapers. And this is a headline from Turun Sanomat, which is a local newspaper. And they say the church is offering protection for the paperless migrants. Is the church breaking the law? And of course they found out that they are breaking the law. It's illegal to stay in the country without a permit or visa. And it's illegal to help people stay in the country illegally. So they are breaking immigration laws. And still, there are no arrests. There's no prosecution, so obviously the church is above the law. They can do whatever they want. And when the Berlin attacks happened, there were some pretty unbelievable remarks about it from one of our bishops called Irja Askola. And she's a multiculturalist, LGBT rights activist, and all these very SJW things. And just wait a minute, I'll see if I can find the article. Okay, so here's the article. And this Bishop Irja Askola says, Berlin attack raises questions and fear. And she asks, how did Europe glide into the repeated terror attacks? Is it possible to create trust and discussion about this? I don't think the thought of peace is utopian, but we must work for it. And she says, we mustn't brand all Muslims as dangerous, and we mustn't make the refugees and asylum seekers as scapegoats to suffer for these terror attacks. Churches and religious leaders must together renounce hate speech and the use of religion as a tool for vengeance. We must listen and face especially the young people who are in danger of becoming displaced from society. And she points out that a lot of Islamic leaders in Europe have in many different words renounced this kind of misuse of religion, meaning terrorism. And of course it's not misuse of religion, that's simply doing what the fucking Quran says, doing what Muhammad did. It's called Sunnah, the way Muhammad lived his life, and that's something all good Muslims are supposed to imitate. It was Muhammad who started the global jihad. So that's what these people are continuing as we speak. And it's funny how she's immediately worried about the asylum seekers. She's not saying, okay, we must think about how we can secure our own people, how we can make sure our innocent civilians don't get killed by these people. She's immediately thinking about the asylum seekers. They are the real victims. And the fact that you can find a couple of Islamic leaders who are willing to put up a nice face in front of a camera and say, okay, I don't like killing is bad. That doesn't mean the terror attacks are un-Islamic, and it doesn't do anything to change the fact that these terror attacks get a wide support among Muslims. Like, these people are such escapists, like they hang on to these desperate beliefs about Islam and immigration, even though all the evidence is against them. And this woman, she's such a perfect example of these SJWs, like how they are in Finland. Like in America, when you see them, they are these young college kids with blue hair and problematic glasses. But over here, they look like this. They are these elderly women who see these young brown men as some cute toys, like there are some cuddly teddy bears you have to look after and who are doing who would never do you any harm. And I don't understand how the church can be this naive that they are giving shelter to these people, because in the asylum seeker housing centers alone, these reception centers, cops go there all the time because they fight amongst each other, they attack the staff, there are even rapes, and it goes on all the time. Like, this violence is there all the time. And in these reception centers, the real refugees are filtered out, like they get the asylum. And the church gets the rest of them. They take the paperless who didn't get an asylum, the worst bunch of them, and they aren't expecting any trouble. And it's only a matter of time when the first stabbings and rapes start happening in these church shelters. And these people are completely oblivious. Like, they seem to think that these people who they are taking in are some poor little refugees who will be so full of gratitude for these people, for giving them shelter. And that's not how it is. These people, they aren't grateful because that's not what they expected. When they came over here, they spent a lot of money to get here, and they imagined getting a wonderful house, a car, bunches of white women, and all that. And all they end up with is a fucking church shelter. They aren't going to be happy with that. And there is going to be crime, there is going to be violence, and these people aren't some cuddly little things. Like, these people, they are so naive. And I guess they have to learn it the hard way. And I don't think the church will recover from this multiculturalism before the public opinion clearly shifts towards anti-immigration, because they do whatever is trendy. They do whatever they can to keep their membership numbers up so they can get a lot of tax money and keep up their business. And that's how it is, basically. So here's a little story about the Finnish church. And tonight we will be making a live stream with Junes with this Christmas theme. And the time will be 10 p.m. at this local time, which means 3 p.m. at New York time. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for listening.